Alright, in this video, we're going to talk about probability versus odds. Now in this example, for a particular scratch-off ticket, there is typically one winning ticket out of every 5 tickets. And with that in mind, let's just look at these 5 tickets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's suppose out of these 5 tickets, this first one is a winner and then all of these other ones are losing tickets. Now this matches this problem up here. There's typically one winning ticket out of every 5 tickets. Now question number 1 says, what is the probability of buying a winning ticket? Well, that answer is actually given right here in the problem. There is one winning ticket out of every 5 tickets. That is the probability of buying a winning ticket. Now we could divide this as well. 1 divided by 5 is 0.2, which means you have a 20% chance of buying a winning ticket. Now very similar for number 2, the probability of buying a losing ticket. Well, since there's 1 out of every 5 tickets that is a winner, that leaves 4 out of 5 tickets that are losing tickets. So that's 4 out of 5. 4 divided by 5 is 0.8, which is the same thing as saying you have an 80% chance of buying a losing ticket. Now that's probability. So we're looking at, in this case, there's 1 out of 5, 1 out of 5. That's our probability, that 20% chance of buying a winning ticket. But now let's talk about odds. And actually, when you buy scratch-off tickets, if you look on the front or the back, it will give you the odds of winning. And a way I think about it without giving you a formula for number 3 is I think about it as a way of keeping score. Now, what do I mean by that? So what are the odds of buying a winning ticket? Well, looking at these 5 tickets over here, we have 1 winning ticket, and then we have 4 losing tickets. And notice how I wrote this here. I wrote a 1 and a 4, and it's very often that you'll see odds with a colon in between it. And we want to think about this as a way of almost keeping score. There's one way to win for every 4 ways that we can lose. Now that is different than saying 1 out of 5 chance of winning. There's one way to win as compared to 4 ways to lose. That is the odds of buying a winning ticket. Now I'll give you a formula for that right here in a second, but let's look at question number 4. What are the odds of buying a losing ticket? Well, there are 4 ways that we can buy a losing ticket for every 1 way that we can buy a winning ticket. Notice our odds get reversed. And it turns out here, this is no surprise, the odds are not in our favor, meaning that we're more likely to buy a losing ticket as compared to a winning ticket. And we can see this here as well. The probability of buying a losing ticket is 80%, but the odds of buying a losing ticket, there's 4 ways to lose for every 1 way that we could win. Now with all that set aside, now there are some formulas that we can use to find the odds, and typically you will see this written as odds in favor, and that just simply means the odds of us winning, buying a winning ticket. And what we want to do there is we want to take the probability of us buying a winning ticket and we want to divide it by the probability of us buying a losing ticket. So the odds in favor, we take the probability of us buying a winning ticket, which is this 20%, the 1/5, the 0.2, whatever you want to use there. And then we divide it by the probability of us losing, which is that 4/5, that 0.8, that 80%. We'll come back and look at that right here in a second, but let's go ahead and talk about the odds against. Now the odds against, that pretty much means us losing. Well, all we do is we use the reciprocal of this right here. And that basically means we want to find the probability of us losing, and then we want to divide by the probability of us winning. Which brings me to my next thing that I want to talk about. You will typically see odds as written with a number, colon, another number. But we can write this as a fraction as well. Let's look at the odds in favor. Basically, the odds of us buying a winning ticket. Let's take the probability of winning, which is that 20%. I'm just going to use the decimal, the 0.2. And then we want to divide by the probability of losing, which is that 0.8. So let's divide by 0.8. Now, since I'm using decimals and division here, it will return a decimal, but we can convert this to a fraction. 0.25, think about 25 cents. That is a fourth of a dollar. And if I convert that to a fraction, we do have 1/4. So this 1 to 4 is the same thing as this right here. It's just two different ways of writing the same thing. Now, I mentioned the odds against is simply going to be the reciprocal. Since this fraction was 1/4, if we find the reciprocal of this, and that's all we're doing from this formula here to this formula here, it would become 4/1, which is what we see right here. 4, 2, 1. So just keep that in mind. We can write odds with a colon in between it, or sometimes you will see it written as a fraction. And there you have it, probability versus odds, two topics that I often see students get a little bit mixed up and confused with. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. And that's it for this video. I hope it helped.